What's going on, everybody, and welcome to the channel. Hope everybody's having an amazing day so far. Today we're going to be taking a look at system number 3 of 7 that I saved from the e-waste. These systems were destined to be recycled, but I was able to get them for an amazing deal. I think I spent right around $100 for all 7 systems. I don't know what this thing is packing on the inside. I can't wait to find out. So without further ado, let's go ahead, let's get straight into the video and see what we're working with. Alright folks, so this is our system in question. She's definitely crusty and dusty as previously stated, but it does look relatively good. Definitely have some dust buildup on the cracks and crevices here. We got our side panel kind of popping out right here. Same for on the rear. So one thing that I did notice, one, we are missing a couple screws on the back here holding our panels in. 2, we do not have a graphics card, unfortunately. And 3, this thing has a ton of dust buildup on the inside. Another observation that I'm making right now is the fact that this does look like an upgraded PSU, but it is also missing some screws on the back as well. So it's kind of just moving around in there, which is never ideal. So we're going to go ahead, we're going to get this thing hooked up, see if it works, and then move on to the teardown as usual. Alright, so we got this thing all nice and hooked up. Do we think that it's going to work? Fingers frickin' crossed. Let's go. Go ahead and power it on. We do have a little light right here. We do not have the power light, but we are getting some other lightage around here. And look at this, we do got a post. Holy crap, unbelievable. Alright, so it looks like we're dealing with a Core 2 Duo E8400, and I've worked with this CPU before. This is an incredible CPU for its time. So we're gonna go ahead, we're gonna try and get into the BIOS and see how much RAM we're dealing with. Okay, so we were able to get into the BIOS. Unfortunately, I don't see anywhere where it's going to display the amount of RAM that we're using. That's not really a big deal. Sometimes with these older BIOSes, it works like that. It does, however, display our Core 2 Duo E8400 running at 3 gigahertz, which is, that's not bad at all. Again, for its time, this is definitely a good CPU. So let's go ahead and we're going to check our hardware monitor here, if this BIOS has one, and see what our temps look like after it's been sitting for a few minutes. Alright, so this is definitely not a good sign. Oh my god, we're running at 52°C. That's right around 120 to 125 degrees. This thing is definitely very toasty. So we're going to go ahead, we're going to get this thing laid down on the operating table and see what we got going on the inside. I can't wait to see what the thermal paste looks like. Alright, so we got this thing laid down on the operating table. Let's go ahead and get our side panel off and see what's going on the inside. Wow. We are dealing with one hell of a dusty mess here. Holy crap. Aside from the dust, look at this cable management, which is non-existent. Jesus, holy crap. This thing definitely needs some help. We are absolutely going to be tearing this thing down all the way. This thing looks absolutely disgusting on the inside. Look at this dust. It is caked. Look inside this cooler here. Holy crap. This thing definitely needs some surgery. So with that being said, let's go ahead, let's get into this and see how much RAM we're dealing with and what kind of motherboard we got going on in here. Okay, so I don't know if you guys noticed this or not, but check this out. So we have our one stick of RAM sitting right here, and then we have down here at the bottom another stick of RAM. What the hell? Oh my goodness. So it does look like we're dealing with HyperX DDR2 RAM. Unfortunately, it does not say the speeds in which these run at, but since we got this stick out, we'll go ahead and pull the other one out real quick and go ahead and start tearing this thing down. So thankfully, these are the exact same sticks of RAM. It does not say the size, it does not say the speeds in which they run at, but not a big deal. We will definitely be finding out once we get this thing put back together and get some Windows installed and all that good stuff. So we'll go ahead and set this off to the side and continue with tearing this thing down. Alright, so we have everything disconnected from our motherboard here. In terms of the motherboard, it looks like we're dealing with the G31 M7 TE, which I do believe is associated with Biostar. In terms of the RAM, I did give that a quick Google. It looks like it's Kingston HyperX DDR2 running at 800 megahertz, so definitely not bad at all. So with that being said, we're gonna go ahead, we're gonna pull the power supply out of here, we're gonna get our fans out, and get our motherboard out. Okay, so first things first, let's go ahead and get our PSU out of here and see what we're working with here. All right, so in terms of our power supply, looks like we're dealing with a Cooler Master 500 watt PSU here. Does not have any particular rating. This thing is definitely dusty, very nasty on the inside. We do have a fair bit of dust going on the top here, and a little bit at the front as well. It's not too bad, but this will definitely be getting a nice good clean off camera. Let's go ahead and move on to our motherboard. All right, so before we pull our motherboard out of here, we do have an AverMedia Philips encoding TV tuner card. Pretty cool. You don't see these in a lot of PCs. Fortunately, in the last couple builds I've done, we actually had these cards. So definitely pretty cool. Don't really have a use for it these days, though some people might, but unfortunately I don't. In fact, I don't even have a way to test this thing. But pretty cool. We'll go ahead and set this off to the side and get our board out. Okay, so now that we have our motherboard out, we can actually have a good look here. And one thing I'm noticing that's really bizarre is whoever mounted this fan on here decided to go ahead and use wire to actually hold this thing down in place. So not too sure why somebody would do that. I mean, there are screw holes in the cooler itself to actually mount this thing properly. So we are going to go ahead and get this thing off of here. Obviously get it remounted correctly, but let's get all this taken apart and see what kind of nasty swamp gooch we're dealing with on the inside here. All right, so I have everything disconnected here. I was able to get my fan off here and look at how much just nasty crap and debris is going on inside here. Absolutely nasty. And then check out our cooler. Completely plugged up. And our thermal paste is pretty much non-existent. So we're gonna go ahead, we're gonna get this thing all nice and cleaned off, get some new thermal paste on here, and get this thing back together. Once we get this thing back together, we're gonna go over the GPU that I plan on using for this build. All right, so we have our motherboard nice and cleaned off. We have our CPU ready for pasting. Before we move on, I just wanna get some context as to what this CPU is exactly. This is a dual core. This is built off the Wolfdale architecture. This is an LGA 775 socket. It does clock in right around 3 gigahertz, and it has a TDP of around 65 watts. This did release somewhere in January, I do believe, of 2008. So this thing is definitely getting pretty old. But I have tested this CPU before, and it is still capable today. So next up, we have our cooler and fan, all nice and clean. There's a little bit of dust still on here and debris that I still got to kind of clean off a little bit here, get a little more perfect, but I did go ahead and switch up our fan. It is the same size. It's just a little bit more aesthetically pleasing. So we're going to go ahead and repaste our motherboard real quick and get this thing back together. All right, looks like a good amount of thermal paste on here. So we're going to go ahead, get our cooler back on here, and I'm going to do a nice good cleaning of the case off camera and get everything back together. And then, as previously stated, we're going to go ahead and take a look at the GPU that I plan on using for this build. So I did just want to take a quick look at our case real quick. As you can see, it's not too dusty. It needs a little bit of a cleanup, but nothing too bad. My main concern is going to be getting this fan nice and cleaned. This does appear to be an LED fan, so we'll get this thing all nice and cleaned up, and hopefully this thing still actually works. But we shall see. So when I come back, this thing will be all nice and clean and back together, and we will go ahead and get our GPU installed once I reveal what we plan on using. All right, you guys, we got this thing all back together, super nice and clean. This thing turned out absolutely phenomenal. This thing looks so damn good. It never gets old to me what these things look like after they get a nice good clean, a little bit of wire rehabilitation, and just a little bit of love. So a few things have changed on this system. I did go ahead and swap out the power supply, and I will be showing that to you here in a second. So once I got this thing back together, hooked it up, tested it, did a couple stress tests with Heaven Benchmark, and discovered that the PSU in this thing was no good. It had a couple different issues. So first off, I noticed that it was getting extremely hot. So I checked the fan, and the fan was not spinning at all. So I went ahead, I replaced the fan, and still no spin. So here is what I discovered on the inside. So not only is it extremely crusty and dusty and nasty, but we have a capacitor right here that has completely failed. It is leaking out all of its fluid. It's no good. Along with this one here that is bulging, and then another one underneath these wires that has also failed and began to leak. So unfortunately, this PSU is no good. So what would happen is the system would run the heaven benchmark for about 15 to 20 seconds and it would just shut off. I was like, what the hell? So that's when I kind of started investigating and discovered that this PSU had a lot of underlying issues. So I went ahead and swapped it out for the Corsair TX550M. This is a 550 watt, I do believe, power supply. It doesn't have as many connections as this other PSU over here, but it had enough to at least get this thing up and running, and it should do good in our benchmarks, hopefully. At least for the games that I have planned for this thing. So, next up, we have our graphics card. So this is a 2 gig GTX 1050 by EVGA. Super cool card. I love how EVGA designed their cards. They all look so damn cool. But I think that this will do our CPU plenty justice. So with that being said, we're going to go ahead. I'm going to get the GPU back in here, get this thing all plugged in and hooked up and ready to test, and I will be back with you guys. Alright, so we got this old gal all nice and hooked up. Let's go ahead and power this thing on and see what she looks like. Alright, so we have our nice little LED fan back there. Adds a nice little touch to it. See if we get a picture on the screen here. Alright, so she is loading in. When I come back, we will be in our first game. Alright, so if you guys have watched a few of my previous videos, you will know that with these kind of systems, I love testing World of Warcraft 2, just for gits and jiggles to see how it runs. Quite often it runs pretty damn good. So we're just kind of going to mess around here, see if we can get any lagging or hitching, although I kind of doubt it. When it comes to this particular system, and actually a lot of DDR2 systems, I have one hell of a time getting any kind of hardware or performance monitor to work on this thing. Specifically with this game can be kind of a pain in the ass. So kind of just gonna wing it on this first one, but the rest will have monitors so that you guys can see exactly what is going on. So, but again, this game is, I can tell right off the bat that it's running at hundreds of FPS and super smooth. Probably gonna get my butt kicked. Let's see if we can't win a fight here. Come on. Oh, I got smashed. Alright, let's see if we can't call in some reinforcements over here real fast. Here we go. Kick his butt. What are you doing? Yeah. Alright, we are victorious. Let's go ahead and move on to the next one. Alright, so game number 2. We are checking out Metro Last Light Redux. Never played it, saw a video on it, looked pretty cool, so I decided to go ahead and download it. Not sure if it's going to run on here, but so far it looks like we're getting right around 100 FPS. Let's go ahead and get into the game and see what we're working with. So far graphics look pretty darn good. Hovering right around 90 FPS, not bad at all. We're chilling at around like 55 to 60C on our CPU. Oh my gosh. Yep, very scary. Scary, scary, scary. They're trying to get me. They ain't gonna get me. Sorry if you can hear the clicking in the background. I gotta get a capture card for doing this. Damn, this game is creepy. Oh, what the hell was that? Okay, I did not see that coming. Wow, talk about one hell of an intro. Okay, so aside from all the scary stuff, game seems to be running absolutely fantastic. We are up in the 130s, 140s right now. Pretty darn good. So right off the bat, I can tell that this game is 100% playable on this system. Not bad at all. Let's go ahead and move on to the next game. Alright, so next up is a cool little cheap racing game. This is definitely a fun little time passer. This is called Kanjo Zoku. Probably not one that's really popular. Not a lot of people have heard of this game, but every once in a while I'll sit down and play it. It's just a fun little Fast and Furious style street racing game. Get to drive your little rice burners around and just weave in and out of traffic and every so often run into people racing. So we got a couple people in front of me, see if we can't keep up with them. Looks like we are running right around 60 FPS. The game is running incredibly smooth. We're chilling right around 56, 57C on our CPU, so not bad. So if you've never played this game and you like racing games, this is definitely a fun time passer. Go ahead and check it out. Alright, so it looks like we are definitely not going to be able to catch up to anybody. This thing's about as slow as a bug on a rug. Let's go ahead and move on to our next game. Alright, so next up is Bioshock Remastered. Super cool game, super fun, should run no problem on this system. We are looking at right around 160 FPS, well, between 130 and 160 FPS. We're chilling under 60C on our Core 2 Duo. One thing I noticed is that this graph is kind of wonky, so before you people go into the comments and be like, your graph is all effed up and blah blah blah, I know. I have almost everything turned on in the MSI Afterburner, and this is all that it displays to me no matter what I do. Hold your horses. I know. Anyways, game seems to be running very smoothly. Super nice. It's been a while since I played this game. I played it through a very, very long time ago. But my memory of this game, very fond. Super fun. Kind of creepy and weird. But then again, I like me some weird games. So, definitely one that if you haven't played it before, you should definitely check it out. Okay, so this one obviously runs perfectly fine. Let's go ahead and move on to our last game. Alright, so next up is Valheim. This is a super fun Viking-style survival open world game. Lots of base building, lots of fighting, lots of magic, and just all kinds of cool stuff in this game. Unfortunately, it looks like it is running like pure garbage. We are getting very low 20s, sometimes into the 30s, but that's very, very momentarily. Quite often, these older systems cannot run it, especially when we're limited by 800 megahertz of DDR2, and we're only running 4 gigs, so definitely this thing is 100% kneecapped. It's not going to necessarily be able to perform to its full potential, running only 4 gigs of RAM. Alright, you guys, that is going to do it for this one. Thank you so much for joining me here. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. This was definitely, I'm not going to lie, this PC was kind of a challenge to get going. This video probably took me about 2 or 3 days to actually fully get ready, filmed, and edited. Sometimes these older systems, they can definitely be a pain in the ass. But definitely, as you saw, worth the reward in the end. Until next time, you guys, I'll catch you in the next one. Stay safe in the world.